Hello, welcome back to City Planner Plays Retro Reviews, where we take a look at old city builders and see how they hold up today. So up first is one of my very favorite city builders of all time, SimCity 4. This game came out back in January of 2003, and it is an absolutely fantastic game. I wasn't a planner when the game came out. I was a high schooler, and this is a game that really helped foster that curiosity about city planning for me. So it holds a very nostalgic place for me, and I'm excited to dive in. I'm also excited to see how different this is than our current city builders, such as Cities Skylines. How does it hold up? So let's figure that out by starting a city. And I'm going to start right about here. I want a decent amount of space to work with, and this is in the Fairview region, which is one of the default regions that comes with the game. And the first thing I notice is it loads really fast, and part of the reason it's loading so fast is it's not meant to run on this modern hardware that I have. So it's running very, very well. The very first thing it does is it drops you in, and you're able to do a little bit of terraforming if you want to start out with that. One of the very first things I notice is that I can't use my mouse to rotate. I can use it to pan, which is fine. And then you don't have the freedom to move around in 360 degrees, but that's okay. You're able to click around and you get 4 views. And you get this isometric, which is really kind of exciting. And I appreciate that I have the ability to do things like I could drop some horses in here, or take a look at what's already here. There's llamas, bears, horses, moose, everything. It's pretty nice. So there's a lot of life in here, and that's one thing that this game is really good at. It brings life to the natural environment. Trees grow. There are animals, and it's really neat. So we can also look at terrain effects here. And I want to, right off the bat, I kind of want to, ooh, what did I do? Ooh, I don't like that at all. Okay, so what I did was actually completely remove all of everything in the landscaping by basically eroding everything. I thought I could have a tool and just erode the beach. That's not going to happen. That's a pretty steep slope. I guess we'll have to work around that. So we're just going to begin, and we will make cliffside heights. Mayor's name is City Planner, and we will keep this at the easy difficulty. Let's establish the city. So we get some nice fireworks going off, and we have to build a road into our community. So I did just kind of play around a little bit to familiarize myself with the game, and it's so different than I recall it being. That said, a couple of interesting things. So we have a fairly slopeless area here. It's fairly flat, but there's no way for me to actually come through here and figure out what the terrain looks like. Short of just looking at this map, you can kind of tell here, but I don't have a terrain view, which is a bit of a disappointment. That would be very helpful here. Let's start our city. I want to try to build the city in areas that really don't have very much forest. So we'll just build a road here. And it's difficult to have a story when there's no roads, but I appreciate that there aren't roads. So there's no overbuilt highway. It's just this one road. And we don't have any outside cities, so I'm going to need to get this set up with all the requisite city services. So you'd imagine it needs a landfill, and it's SimCity, so we know that there is something you should always do. That is, if you're going to build your landfill, make sure it's at the very corner of your map. You don't want those negative externalities haunting your Sims. So we'll put that way over here. And the interesting thing about that is, in reality, that would be so difficult to actually, have that be an outcome. You'd have to really wrestle with some difficult discussions with neighboring communities, and they're just not going to roll over and let you do that. So I'm going to use the black roads, these roads, as arterials, and we will use these streets as local streets. Really no collectors, so to speak of, which is fine. I think you could use those as your collectors in the future when you have your avenues, and use these as your arterials, but we're not quite there yet. All right, so let's get started building. We'll build some really basic stuff. And one of the things that frustrated me when I came back to this the very first time is it's difficult. You get these streets that maybe you don't necessarily want that, but if you hold shift, you can do this exactly how you want, which is good. So I'm going to form my own little backbone of streets here. And I know that 3x3 is the smallest you can do. And I'm curious to see how it handles the traffic on a 3x3 grid. This is really tight. And already one of the things I really enjoy about this is I can just go right over the top of this. It's not overly concerned about how I am making my connections. I can go right through the roads, and that is really helpful. Helps me create a fairly nice roadway network without too much thought. And I appreciate that. Now, one thing that's kind of weird, with the streets, you can only go straight. That's not like that with the highways or with the roads. I can have a diagonal here as long as I'm not starting there. So I could go here and have a diagonal, which is kind of interesting. So not very much in the way of diagonals. If you wanted to make a nice diagonal connection, this really isn't your game. So we're just going to need to keep that limitation in mind. Okay, so we'll just build this out a little bit further. And I don't like doing this, but it's the initial plat for the community, so we'll go with it. And we'll just kind of pull this out right up against the forest and leave it there. Now we want to leave some land available for farming. And I'm really excited about this. So this is an agricultural zone, which is phenomenal. Just being able to have an agricultural zone is something that is absolutely missing in Cities Skylines. But, you know, we make do without it. We have industries in Cities Skylines, and that works too. All right, so let's go ahead and get our utilities. We're gonna add a water tower. We'll add that off to the side here, kind of near all of this stuff over here. And then we need a power plant. So I could try to go green and have wind power. Not really any elevation here. And there's a lot of trees, so I don't know that that's the best solution. So we're gonna use natural gas, which if we take a look, 3,000 megawatts, $400 a month. This is 50, produces just a fraction of that. So it's definitely more expensive on a monthly basis than coal, but it's just moderate pollution. And I think I'm worried about that at this point in time. We have a lot of agriculture, and we're going to pollute that already because I'm going to add this right here. Now, I wonder why it thinks that there aren't road connections here. That is bizarre. I feel like there's a road connection. I don't know what the problem is. Well, I'll have to work through that. So, and for water, the interesting thing is all you need is a water tower. There's no sanitary sewer, unless, of course, you're trying to reduce water pollution in a given area. Okay, so let's have our main drag. And I hate the way this is forming. So I went one block too big here. And it's just kind of randomly assigning the directionality of these. And I don't really understand it. Like, why here does it believe that that's the correct direction? And there's no way for me to get this one fixed. Bummer. All right, I'm going to fix these roads. We'll use a little bit of eminent domain and call a mulligan. So these tools, even after all of these years, are so incredibly intuitive. It's just a joy to use. And I appreciate the detail. You have the paving of the roads, the explosions, and then here during construction, the workers. Yeah, it's really nice. And no need to respect the topography here. It's totally flat. But even if I wanted to, it's not really super possible in this game. So that's a limitation. Also, just they're all facing different directions. So I'm holding shift to see what that does. Home and end, which rotate buildings, doesn't do anything for the zoning. So you can't really do much to control the way that this is going down. And I guess the way that I could is just to let it do its thing. So you can make cities very quickly in SimCity, but they're very boring. And I want to avoid that if at all possible. Okay, so now we need our water. And I'm going to put the pipes right underneath the road, right where they belong. One of the nice things about this game is you can make outside connections to your neighboring communities and utilize the resources that they have available to you. I also love that I can just go right through existing pipes to make my connections. it really feels like the developers understood that this is not fun for everybody. In fact, I'm a realist. I think most people do not like placing utilities. And that's why you end up with people creating massive grids of utilities. I get it. And here, I made this too big. I have to send a water pipe underneath the farm field. We'll say that would be a street in the future anyway, so it's okay. You do sometimes see water pipes underneath farm fields. Same with sanitary sewer, all that good stuff. So here we go. We've got our little community going, and we'll see how our budget looks. Not good. Let's speed things up. And I love all the information that we have available to us. Got some advisors. Don't need any of them. We're going to go in our own way. So what else do we have available to us? So right here, this is probably my favorite part of the game. We can take a look at all of our info views. So we have a mini map right here that shows the entire community. And this reminds me so much of the planning maps that you see. In reality, planners use maps nonstop. I create maps every single day. I live in ArcGIS. And if I'm not creating maps, I'm utilizing them because they help tell a story. So the fun thing about these is it allows you to look at every single land use and see the desirability of it. And then when you zoom in, you can see why it's not a desirable place for certain land uses. So right here, it's not a great place for medium wealth residential because we have this farm here. And you might wonder, what's wrong with living next to a farm? Well, it's pretty simple. It's not the air pollution because that's not a problem here. It's the water pollution, which actually is a significant problem with farms. You end up with runoff, which can contaminate waterways. And if you are on a body of water like this, it would lead to algae blooms, which is a problem. So we also have traffic, and it does a really good job of showing this as well. I appreciate that. And I just noticed this. Look at that. We get some whales in the water. Shimmering water. Even 20 years later, I still love it. So one of the other things I really appreciate, we have all of our info views right here. We can take a look at crime, commute time, which apparently is 35 minutes. I assume that's minutes. I don't really know. And start to learn more about our Sims, including the population by age. They're not all coming in at the same age. They're coming in at different ages, which I appreciate. And then their income and lots of other information. Mayor rating. The fun thing about the mayor rating is I can see where in town people like me and don't like me. Right now, they're indifferent about me pretty much everywhere. Makes sense. No parks, no fun, not enough zoning. So I would be upset if I were living here as well. So let's build another couple blocks out. And I appreciate that if I don't overlap, those streets don't connect. Okay, so I wanted to make this feel like it's blending into the countryside. So that's why I've not finished these blocks. I just want there to be some sort of natural transition. And did I miss the commercial zoning? It's not showing up here. Turn off all my data views. Okay, that was what it was. Data views were on, and that confuses things. So, all right, we'll go ahead and add in some of our zoning here. And it removes the trees if I get too close to them, which is unfortunate because I don't want that to happen. So I need to remember to maintain, I think, 2 tiles separation. I do appreciate that I can zone at the end of the cul-de-sac here. Now here's where it's really unfortunate. I'd really love to zone these to not face this main road, but there's no way that I can change it. And that to me is pretty unfortunate. All right, so let's get some water pipes going again. Okay, so I'm gonna speed this up for a minute after I place some city utilities. So we have all of these little city services. So police station, fire station. Why don't we centrally locate those in the main drag, the downtown area? We'll add police and fire, an elementary school. And this is one of my favorite parts of the game, the way it handles schools. So I want to get it centrally located. This is pretty good. We'll add a high school as well. And I can push home to rotate that. And I'm just trying to centrally locate these so that I can pay some really close attention to this in just a minute. So let's go ahead and add in a couple of city serving uses that will boost the value. And you can see adding these services, immediately everything levels up. We have our elementary school here. We're going to use some eminent domain. And that is something I absolutely dislike about this game. So you see that I added this here, and rather than changing the directionality of the zoning, it's facing this park. So that will never develop. So that's a concern. So just add a basketball court. That'll do the trick. Now everyone's happy. By the high school, we'll add some tennis courts. That'll make everyone happy there. And I feel, didn't want to add that. As much as all of these animals want to play tennis. It's just not super thrilling for them. Maybe a soccer field as well. And then there's grass, which I think would look pretty nice here as well. It's not facing towards anything, so I don't know that it's helping a ton, but we'll add it anyway. It's not yelling at me, so it must not be that mad. And then I believe that there's ranger stations. Yes, right here. I love this. So we will add a ranger station. We'll just extend this road one segment, and now we'll be able to take advantage of all this wildlife. I wish we could add paths from here, but that's not something that's available in this game. It does have so many great things, though. One of the things, I talked about this a lot in my recent DLC video, is some sort of modular beach is what I'd love to see in Cities Skylines, and they have it here. Now, granted, because I have 4 ways to rotate the community, and this really steep slopes, there's not a lot that I can do to place this, sort of terraforming a whole bunch. And if I wanted to do that, we'll do it somewhere, but not just yet. It's just really a real challenge, which is a bit frustrating. So let's see. They invite me to pull up a chair and settle in. Really like that. Let's see where I want to boost the land values, because that's really what this is all about. And we'll take a look at the land value. I might actually make myself live. I'll put myself in that farm field. Boost the values right on the edge. Look at that. It's spread right over. There we go. Now, this is interesting because this is not perfectly flat, and you can see that right here, if we get rid of this, it added a bit of a retaining wall. Now, this is a good one. It does a good job here. It does a bad job on really steep areas, but you can't get everything. You can't be perfect. I don't think I added a medical center, so we're going to add a medical center. And I'm going to try to be cognizant of the way that it's going to disrupt the zoning, and I'm going to face that off this main drag. Now I'm curious, now that I've added all of these city serving uses, what does our traffic look like? Perfect. Everything's fine. So, as it would be. It's still very unhappy about the amount of industrial that we have available. I'm going to add another agricultural zone. Split that in half. It'll be 2 different zones, and hopefully it lets me get away with that. It's got water, so it's happy. And when we zoom in and take a look, one of the very best things about this, we'll turn off our data views. It terraforms, it works, it fits. I really, really appreciate that. And all the fields are different. You don't have to spend so much time trying to make a farm look natural. Gives it one building. Now, the farm does show the limitation of the traffic simulation in the game. This is something that I think it's important to talk about. You can see that the trucks are kind of just fading in and out. They're overlapping one another. This is not an agent-based simulation. So when we take a look at traffic here, it is approximating what the traffic would be like in this area based on the uses, the number of junctions, and the paths that it would need to put together to get to certain places. But it is doing that based on it's doing a simulation that's not based on agents like Cities Skylines. So it's not this person lives here and they are driving here to go to work. That's not the kind of game it is. So that's why we have 1,000 Sims here. It's not actually 1,000 agents. And that's why this game has higher populations that mirror reality a little bit more, and why those populations, why you can't see it in the same way. Now there's some interesting things here. We can look at the morning commute and the evening commute and see where people are coming and going. We can see that we have one higher density utilization road right here and here. The high school makes total sense. Parents coming right here. It's kind of where industry meets commercial meets residential meets my house. So I guess that makes some sense too. No congestion anywhere to be found. So now we should look at the budget. It's getting upset with me about the budget, and I want to go and build another second city, which is really what this game's all about. So we need to get this one at some sort of equilibrium. We don't really have to, but to me, it feels like the right thing to do. So one of my favorite things about this game, if we take a look, let's find our elementary school. So I can't just click on the building. I've got to go down here, select a tool, click it, but I can zoom out now. Actually, let's zoom out to begin with because I can't zoom in once I'm in the tool. And you'll see that there's this overlap. So I can fund the buses to go further. It shows me in real time how far that would go. And then I can look at this, and as I'm setting the budget, it's telling me my capacity versus the number of students that I have. So I can really micromanage this. I have 3 teachers, and it's right sizing it a bit more. Same thing with the high school. The police station, I'm a little less concerned about that one. Same thing with the fire station. We'll leave that as is. Then we have our medical clinic right there. Let's see how we're doing. Good coverage there. Let's fund our ambulances at the max. And for patients, we have 81 patients, 500 capacity. We'll take that down, right size it a bit. Power plant, we're using 200 of the 300 kilowatts available to us, or megawatts, watts of some kind. So we can turn this down and try to right size this. That's a lot better. Now, that said, we're seeing that the cost per megawatt hour have increased. So the efficiency has gone down, and this is something to keep it's really neat about the way this game functions. There is a fixed cost for just having a power plant, and as you increase the funding for it and the capacity, what you see is that we have that cost per megawatt hour decreasing. We went from $1 to 17 cents. So that might make sense to give ourselves a little bit of overhead. Can't do anything with water, but that's completely fine. So that brought things more or less in line, and I like where things are going. It looks like this landfill resolved itself, and I think that it's time for us to add a sim here just for fun. Why don't we say that this is City Planner? It's my face reveal. So here we go. Let's move myself in, and I want to live right across from the high school. City Planner happily hums, hi-ho over new job. And I like living on the safe side, and I have some new digs. So this is really fun. I can see that I live here. Nice big lot, historic house. I can see my age, where I live. I'm a mid-level manager, and I can take a drive. So this part's super cool. So I click on this, and I can drive around my city. And I just drove through someone. Oh, no, I didn't. I was looking at the wrong guy. Oh, here I go. Accident. And I can drive anywhere I want in the city. I can... Oh, not anywhere. I can get stuck. It's not like Grand Theft Auto. Here we go. Just drive around. Oh, hit that. I am indestructible, though, so it's totally fine. And it's just a nice little feature. So Cities Skylines has something similar to this on the Xbox and PlayStation versions of the game, but it's not available on PC, and it's just a fun little mechanic. Really appreciate that this exists. So with that, there are accidents in this game, which when you have traffic that builds up in some places, you'll start to see those, and I'm interested in seeing if we have any of those problems once we build a new city. But why don't we hop out of here? We'll exit to our region, and we'll save and exit to region. Now that we have this is something that's really fun. We can pop into here and take a look at some of our options. So right up here, we have the ability, we have a satellite view right now, which shows our entire region. We can also look at a transportation map, which is really fun because now we can see what's happening here. And what I think we're gonna do, why don't we open up another community right here? We'll name this Round Lake. And we'll make this Evil City Planner that's establishing this city. What does Evil City Planner care about? Well, not the trees that are here. Not that for sure. So what we're going to do is just get some industry going here. And we'll just connect this across. Now this has some terrain, but do we really care about the terrain? I don't know. So first and foremost, I didn't make a power connection. So I'm going to add that, and I can't recall where that connects in, but now we're going to have the ability to make a power connection here. So what I'm going to do is zone a whole bunch of industry right here and just see what the game does with this. And I was able to make that not connect. I don't want it to connect right at the border there. And let's see for our water. Got some pipes poking in from our neighbor. And now I need to remember exactly how you make those neighborhood connections. So I can go into here in the budget and initiate a water and a garbage deal. And they accept that, and we're ready to rock and roll. Okay, so I need to hop back into my other city for just a moment to see. The power will be back in 1 second. Okay, and I'm back. I just wanted to take a look and make sure that our power connection was made back in our previous community. So what we can do now is hop into our budget and initiate a deal for power. Buy a little power and watch everything grow. And look at that. Our RCI carries over from our previous community. So even if I wanted to build residential here, the big demand regionally is for industrial, not residential. So I really appreciate that. Now, what is not super realistic is I'm going to be creating a ton of air pollution in this area. And it's not there initially, but we speed this up. And once these get going, check out that pollution. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. And no one's going to care because it's over here on this side of the border. So it's not going to impact the other community at all. So that's an interesting mechanic that I know that I have certainly played around with that one more than my fair share of times. Okay, so I wanted to make a little zone here and really fill this in because this is going to be a way that we can really take a look at our rush hour mechanics. And that is not underneath the road because these roads aren't lining up between the communities. I could just delete this one, truthfully. Not super necessary. And then we'll place these underneath our roads, right where they belong. Perfect. Perfect. All right, so let's see what we're looking at. We're looking at a community where it's not fully developed. That's okay. So I could just keep popping back and forth in between the two of these cities and figuring it out, but I think that we'll have a little bit of residential here. And I just want to see how it's going to develop. And you see that this is an area that's full of creatures, and we are encroaching upon their natural habitats, which is really, really, really unfortunate. Let's get lazy about this. Here's what you can do in SimCity that I think gets overused just a little bit. And that is, look at that. Not a problem. I just zoned a gigantic city. No issues at all. It also has basically nothing in terms of services. And now we're running out of utilities. So we have to hop back into neighborhood deals and accept bigger deals. We don't have more water. We can export all of the trash. So we're going to need our own water tower or water pump. We're going to go with a pump. Has a higher capacity. And unlike our previous city, which had lots of problems with budget, this one has no problems at all. Now, I'm wondering, can I go through? Oh, we've got problems. So we've got problems with fires, and it wouldn't be a build of mine without that, regardless of the game. So we'll come through here. We'll add a fire station, fire help. I don't know where it is. I'm allowed to pull up a chair here and move in. Wow. 2,500 people here because I monozoned a gigantic swath of residential. That is just wild. All right, so I've got a lot of overlays up, and I've got some stuff that I really don't like too. So I've got this extra road. I want to get rid of that. We'll see how this goes. They're not very happy with me. There we go. Fix that. So I wanted to, before we leave here, because I think we're going to leave this pretty bare bones. I wanted to see if I could place a beach, but it's still not happy with me. And this is one of the tricks. So I think to get the beach, we've got to terraform a bit. So we'll level. There's no sloping mode. So let's see. I believe you just select a height and kind of go with it. And it just kind of clears everything that's there. And I don't know if that's good or not. We'll have to find out. It's not exactly where I wanted it, but let's just go with it. Nope, that is definitely not where I wanted it. A little gap there. It is way too easy to make mistakes like that in this game. Okay, slope too steep there. So look at that parking lot. I'm wondering if when I add a road here, will that fix it? No. That certainly does not fix it. But I appreciate that I can place this totally parallel without causing too many problems. Short of this looking terrible. Maybe if I just rotate? Nope. It looks bad no matter how you look at it. The beach looks good. And if I were to try to come in here and make some improvements, I'm pretty sure I just get rid of the beach. No, I don't. But I do get rid of that road. So let's see. Oh, no. I definitely get rid of the beach. So it has a little bit of tolerance, but it's not very high. So let's add that back in. Nope. Now it's unhappy. I guess it's got to be crazy sloped. So I guess I could probably just come out and stretch this out further. So we'll get rid of that. Let's give this another shot. Now, I'm trying to work with this to make it... Okay, that actually looks really good. So I guess I just had to play with it. It seems to be happy with me. And I wonder, could I do even better? Let's say I pick this and I come back here. Look at that. All I had to do was destroy my city and I was able to create the perfect beach. Took a little bit of guessing and checking, and I had no road access to it. Oh no. Oh no. Look what that did. That is... That is not what I wanted. That is not at all what I wanted. And it terraformed everything. So obviously this is the thing. Oh, and now it deletes all of my handiwork. So we got a beach. It's not great, but it works. And look at all the crazy terraforming stuff that it has done to make this work. So obviously this road here was not suitable. The game knew it, but it still keeps this looking terrible well after the fact. I wonder if I replace this. Nope, that's just the terrain height now. And if I try to fix it, it's going to destroy all the buildings here. So that's clearly a limitation of this game. You just got to live with stuff like that. You're going to park angled parking, but maybe not the type of angled parking you're thinking of. So we'll go with it. Now, another thing, you could plant trees here. So let's plant some palm trees. So they come in a nice straight line, which I really appreciate. But everything comes in nice straight lines in this game. But you'll notice they're really small, and that's because the trees grow in this game, which I absolutely adore. So that's something that I think is missing in modern city builders, is that growing mechanic. That's just something that the life, that's too many animals, but still, I like it. Everyone's celebrating that I have a house. Moose is celebrating too. Just rammed into all those people. Horse right through my door. My window, rather. We're good. And we've got our water that's on pillars. Maybe not the best way to get water. All right, well, let's go back to our initial city and see how things are looking. So here we are back in here, and I expect to see more traffic using this road. And I think, well, look at this. Redevelopment right away. And this has impacted our RCI demand. Now we want residential and commercial. And you see that we had some vacant commercial, and it immediately fills in. So there's a symbiotic relationship between the different communities, which, you just don't have that in Cities Skylines. Something that I wish that was in there. So I'm deleting that because I want to increase the density here. And another thing that is available, mid-rise development. This is huge. We'll leave that out. We'll change the street grid to accommodate this new mid-rise development. And one of the fun things, you can come here and look at this here, actually, building styles. So we have different building styles, and we can select the kind of styles we want. So every 5 in-game years, it will change the style. And we could say we are not fans of New York or Houston. Let's say we just want Chicago and New York and Euro Contemporary. Every 5 years, it'll change that, and I can change this to change every year. We get a different building style. But that gives your place a sense of history, which is something that this game really excels at, is rather than being a static place in time, it feels better. Let's see, neighbor power supply deal is a problem. So let's go ahead, look at our utilities. Oh, you know what it is? Right here, we turn this down. We'll have to put it right back up to where it was. And now our capacity and utilization are a little bit better. We also have the ability to build churches. That's another thing that these are very prevalent in most communities, regardless of where you are in the world. And I like that it asks for those. If it were Wisconsin, it would ask for bars. So a church and a bar, they go together like peanut butter and jelly. So at least where I live. And look at all these happy people. Everyone's cheering. They get a new building, and it's time to party. All right, so I want to look at traffic. And interestingly, still no problems. I thought for sure with all of the utilization here, we'd have lots of issues. Same thing here, because they're using the garbage site. I'm going to speed this up and see if it changes. We're not even really seeing the volume there. We're seeing the volume in our downtown core, which makes sense. This is where all of our commercial activity is, and you can see things are happening here. What are we looking at? Car lot. Car lot. Car lot. Oh boy. I do not like car lots on main streets. They do happen sometimes, but not a good look in my opinion. Bob's Grease Pit everywhere, a diner. Used cars. So we should take a look. What if we have some medium density? I can't right mouse click to do that. Let's get rid of our data views. So I don't believe that I can just come over this. Oh, I can. I forgot. I could just go over the top of this and increase the density. That is so cool. So there I go. I just went with some mid-rise, and look, it immediately increases the density. That, oh my goodness. That is so missing. I mean, that allows you to redevelop. That is a core thing that happens in cities. So being able to just go through here, change the zoning, and let the existing zoning exist for a while you wait for that redevelopment to occur. Can I do the same thing here? I can. Wow. That is awesome. That is so great. And what if we have one block with high rises? What does that look like? Those will be their towers. Same thing here. Now, interestingly, it's just kind of maintaining the existing buildings because there's no demand for that high density, which is very, very interesting to me. Now here, we're seeing the Gray Mansion fall into disrepair, which to me means that there are some issues in this area. Kind of interesting. And part of the issues are that we've lowered the budget for a variety of our services. So we need to improve these. And it looks like healthcare is our big limitation. And as I raise those up, the Gray Mansion looks better. And that's one of the things that's really nice about this game. You can tell a lot about what is happening in your community based on the way the buildings look. So the grass color, for instance, correlates to the level of the building. So the darker and deeper the grass, the more it's being watered and the more affluent the resident that lives there. So right here, it's a low wealth citizen. Then we come over here. Let's compare this. Low wealth, darker green, high wealth. So very, very neat stuff. End of the cul-de-sac. Got some. Ooh, that is unfortunate. We have some mid-wealth residents and probably some of the best lots in the entire city. Being able to back up to the forest. Love it. So let's see how City Planner is doing. Volunteer at a parent-teacher conference. That's great. Where am I at? I'm just sitting here in my house. I don't know that that's the same house. I think I moved. Middle-class house. And let's see if I'm still at middle management. Yep. I'm doing all right, though. Not in good health. But I'm fine. High school education, doing just fine. All right. You know, with that, I think that I want to draw a couple of conclusions. So this game, is it still fun? Yeah, I think it is. You can still create a very in-depth community. It requires much less computer resources than Cities Skylines, for instance. But with that, you've got to accept the limitations. The graphics are obviously dated. This game was put out back in 2003, and as a result, it's going to be a little bit rudimentary. But for that, you get a region mechanic that's pretty fun, and you have the ability to place many city services, including some that are not available in current games. And then there are some, like the Landfill, that are much more akin to reality. We're able to place a landfill that conforms to our land, not conform our land to our landfill. That's not the way it works. I also appreciate that you can make little green parks, that, it seems like there's quite a bit of life in this community, and we have the ability to either just kind of monozone a gigantic neighborhood, which if you're making a huge city, you might want to do that. Because a lot of times when you get to like that middle rung suburb, which is the suburb in between the sprawling loops and whatever suburbs that you see out in the periphery, and then the dense urban neighborhoods, that inner ring suburb will just be a grid of streets that just kind of goes into the oblivion, single family or mid-rise zoning, and that's kind of all that you see for an eternity. Now look at this. This is something I want to point out too. This is that difference in building styles. So you can't see it here in a very direct way, but you can see that these buildings are very different. So one of them is the New York style and the other is, I believe, this is New York. This is Chicago, maybe? I'm not sure. But it does have a different feel, which I appreciate. And we could build all styles at once if we wanted City Skyline style, if we wanted to go about that. But it really makes every neighborhood feel a little bit different. The housing architecture is different, which is reality. You have neighborhoods that look different because of the time period in which they were developed. Getting back to this, the data views and the information that the game gives you is just outstanding. You're able to see so much and make really informed decisions about your community. The one thing that is challenging in this game that I will just put out there is building a small community that functions well is very difficult because of the way the budget works. Now, I could come through here and just crank the taxes and get everyone to leave the community if that's what I was gearing at. Like, let me see, if I boost this up to 11, will I balance the budget? Nope. Not even close. But utilities, that's kind of where my expenses lie. I'd have to go through and try to change that. The interesting thing is, half of my budget is being paid for by neighborhood deals. I'm not sure if that's a good deal or not. Now, one thing I know is not a good deal is the trash, because we're almost full here. If we take a look, I don't even know how much space is left in here, but it doesn't look like much. Visually, it looks like it's almost full, and then we're in trouble. And the way to resolve this would be to add like a recycling center or something of that nature. And of course, that again costs me more money. Now, I could go into my neighborhood deals now that I have the ability to import more. When I go back, I might be able to set that. But that is a concern. Now, I believe that this will take care of some of the landfill. Like this is, the preference will be this recycling center, but I'm not, I don't 100% recall. I don't recall. So I appreciate the gifts that it gives you as well. I do think it has some replay value as a result of that. Let's make a little cemetery, a rural cemetery. So this is it does a really good job with all these little assets. Look at this asset. It is a cemetery. There's no churches, some mausoleums. Everyone's really excited about that too. Apparently, they've been waiting for a place to mourn. I have no idea. So a giant at governing gifts. Great. And now my taxes are killing the middle class. So it's kind of like lemonade stand. You gotta be very careful there. So lots of great things about this game. Certainly, if you haven't played this game before and just want something a little bit different, I think it's worth your while. You'll have a lot of fun with it. There are some limitations, but I would absolutely recommend, if you have a chance to play this game, to do it in 2020, 2022. Not in 2020, that's the past, and that's the year we don't speak of. Although it was the year this channel started, so I guess it's not all bad. I've actually really enjoyed coming back to this, and I might continue to play this a little bit on my own. It's pretty fun, and I want to get back to building a pretty big community, because the small town's fun, but a big city's really, really fun. Just look at how great that looks. Let's have one last once-over at this. We will go back to our regional view, save and exit to region, and you can see how this all comes together. We're able to take a look, satellite view, city names, boundaries, just pretty neat stuff there. So with that, I think we're going to leave it here. I hope that you've enjoyed this look at SimCity 4. And in the comments, let me know what you think about these kind of videos. Something a little bit different, but this isn't something I've been wanting to do for a while. Take a look at some other city builders and see how they play today. See how fun they are. There's a number that I haven't had an opportunity to play myself, and I want to dive in and take a look and see how they play and how they feel. Tropico is one that I've been thinking of showcasing on the channel. I've never played Anno, and I've been thinking about doing that. And there are a number of other games. So if you like this kind of video, let me know, drop it in the comments, and leave some suggestions for the types of videos you'd like to see. And with that, I think we're going to leave it here. Hope that you've enjoyed this. If you did, like button. If you aren't subscribed, please do so, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.